Welcome to the regular meeting of the El Centro City Council for Tuesday, September 6th. First, we will do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Edney?
Present.
Councilmember Villegas-Walker?
Here.
Mayor Silva?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanders?
Here.
And Councilmember Solomon?
Here.
Please join Ms. Walker for the pledge and the invocation.
Please rise. Ready, begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing and bow your heads. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the many blessings that are bestowed upon us in living in this great nation. Help us to be mindful of the work that lies ahead during this meeting. Help us to exercise good judgment and to take those actions that are appropriate and in the best interest of our community. Be with us now and help to instill in us hearts of gratitude. These things we pray in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
We'll have a report from our city attorney on items that were discussed earlier today in closed session.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council did recess the closed session and considered anticipated litigation item, just one item. And there's no action to report, although a report was given to council. With regard to the city attorney contract, the city manager, city attorney, and the associate city attorney left during that discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. I'd like to make an announcement at a closed session. I'd like to announce to the public that the council today accepted the letter of retirement from Mr. Luis Hernandez after how many years of service, Luis?
Well, with the city, 20 and 32 with the local government.
So we're very grateful, Luis, for the job very well done. And with regret, the council does accept your retirement effective December 30th of this year. Thank you, Luis. This is a public meeting. If there's an item on the agenda in which you wish to be heard, please complete a speaker slip and submit it to the city clerk prior to the start of the meeting. When the item is announced and your name is called by the mayor, please come forward to the microphone, address yourself to the council, stating your name and address for the record. Unless the mayor extends the time, there's a 3-minute time limit for each public presentation. If you wish to address the council on any subject matter within the council's jurisdiction that is not listed on the agenda, you may do so during the public comment portion of the agenda. I'm going to break a little bit from the agenda, and I do have two people that want to speak to us about streets. I won't make them wait until the end of the meeting. I'll do that very shortly. Presentations. I want to just make a presentation, an announcement on something that I've said in the past. I always do this at the end of the meeting when the audience is mostly gone. But there's a very big event being sponsored by the city. That's our Grito Mexican Independence Day celebration, which is scheduled for September 17th. This will be our 4th annual celebration this year because we're bringing a major headliner to conclude the event. We expect probably 4,000 to 5,000 people, if not more, that day. So I hope people can join us. The headliner group is Silverado, so if you're in for some good norteño music on the 17th at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. the music will start. Please join us at the Grito celebration at Starkville in El Centro. Thanks. Let's move on to our scheduled public comments. We have our report from the El Centro Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, good evening to everyone. Firstly, I'd like to report we had a meeting with the city, kind of working on some of the development issues, and it was Kathy Kinnerson, myself, and then Harold Walk, who is on our board of directors. We met with Mayor Silva, excuse me, trying to give you a new name, and Councilwoman Sanders was there as well, and along with several city staff. to discuss the ideas and challenges and opportunities that resulted from those roundtables that we've discussed over and over again. But here we are going forward and discussing some of those items. So I'm sure that Mayor Silva has probably had a chance to discuss with you guys some of the good ideas that came out of that meeting. And thank you again for making that meeting possible, especially to you, Mr. Mayor, and and for all their city staff and their participation. I think it was a really great meeting, a lot of good things, and very educational for myself and Kathy, I think, as well. And we can't thank you enough for getting everyone together, because I know that's hard just to get everyone together sometimes. And I just wanted to follow up. I know one of the things we discussed was some of the challenges that you guys have with Caltrans and stuff. So whatever we can do as a chamber, of course, if you'd like to, if we ever get an opportunity to meet with someone, if you'd like us to be at those meetings, we'd love to be involved, and whatever we can do to get more development and make it easier here in the city of El Centro. Just a couple things to report. We had a chamber co-op mixer over at Desert Trails. We usually have been meeting at the PAL, and it was a nice change to meet over there. It was a little warm, but that's good, because that meant there was lots of people in there. And thank you to all of you who attended. And I think I just wanted to say, I think it was really promising that we filled that place up. And of course, you know how the Valley is, last minute, people make reservations. But we were full on the different businesses that rented those spaces. And I just think that's really promising. And it was just exciting to talk to people, different businesses, and different people there. I don't know, it just gives me hope that hopefully we're all hanging in here, you know, with this economy. So thank you. It was a good turnout. I had an opportunity to attend a couple welcome back teachers events, including El Centro Elementary, CUHS, and Heber. And then coming up tomorrow, our Imperial Valley Young Professionals is sponsoring a lunch and learn. And guess who our guest speaker is?
Glad you reminded me.
Okay. I think that's tomorrow at 11:30. Today is Tuesday.
I want to tell where it's at.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's at the San Diego Gas and Electric Renewable Energy Center. It starts at 11:30. And the topic of the seminar is how to get what you want. So thank you for your volunteerism, and I look forward to all the rest of you guys volunteering for another seminar like that.
I'm trying to bring up the baseball bat idea.
How to get what you want?
Did they get that right, or is that a typo?
That's right. How to get what
All right, we're looking forward to that, Cheryl. As you know, the Joint Chambers usually has the big fall mixer, and the date is set for October 12th. This year it will be held in Brawley, and the location is still kind of being determined. They're trying to figure out where they're going to have it. Also,
Pioneers Memorial Hospital is what Sue Dillon told me.
oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. I haven't heard that yet, but, you know,
The 12th is
it is the 12th is what they've have set for now. Also, the Joint Chambers is working on kind of doing a Obama healthcare reform kind of forum seminar, just to kind of organizing a forum to kind of address Obamacare and how that will kind of, the changes will affect everyone, including from our local businesses to our hospitals, because that's going to be a big deal too, to our local citizens. So they're still working on a date for that. Again, they're going to try and do it in November, and they're trying to get a panel of all kinds of different people, from maybe hospital representatives to insurance representatives. So that sounds very enlightening. Lastly, I just wanted to thank you guys for continuing to have the El Grito celebration and taco cook-off. I think I know how hard it is to organize an event and to keep it going. And from the Chamber's perspective, we just appreciate you continuing to do this event, providing our citizens with a great quality of life feature and event, and we also realize the importance we hope it has on some of the local businesses. So thank you for that. With that, have a great evening.
Thank you, Charisse. And I'll say that because we went dark the second meeting in August. We haven't met as a council for about a month or so, so I haven't reported on our meeting. That's part of my mayor report that I'll do at the conclusion of the meeting.
And I did have those notes here, but I'll let you
Okay.
report that
I'll
later.
report.
But Thanks again. It was
Thank
a lot of great ideas, and we look forward to doing many great things. So,
Thank you, Sharice.
anything else? You still have to be at the Lunch and Learn tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharice. Okay, let me go ahead and take care of the public comments that a couple of people want to make. Let me call to the podium Luis Navarro as well as Sonia Barragan, who want to talk to us about streets. Okay, that's fine.
I did have notes.
Okay.
I
and-
forgot them.
But for the record, can you state your name and address?
J. Louise Navarro, 1006 Woodward, El Centro.
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll try to make it short and brief because I know your agenda is very hard. I am a former commissioner from Los Angeles, Huntington Park, actually. Due to health issues, I kind of backed off a little bit. But I'm looking to get reacquainted with the city and with you, and if I can be of any help. I worked real close with the chamber there. I did a lot of volunteer work with my seniors. I call them my seniors. With the very young, I volunteered in the schools with Jade and so on and so forth. My biggest concern right now, because I am a senior, are the streets, and I hope I have them right. Dogwood in front of the IV Mall, that is horrendous. Even for people coming through, you know, the freeway from San Diego, from Los Angeles, wherever, or coming from Phoenix, Tucson, through here, I'm sure they want to stop and see what El Centro is all about. You've got a very, very accessible mall. It's very handy. It's got just about anything that anyone would really want to go in there and shop and stay out of the heat. When I had my surgery a little over a month ago, I came here to generate some capital, of course. We need it everywhere. But what I'm looking at is the street lights, and the lines. They are so horrible. You drive there. I have to pick my granddaughter up at work. She works in the mall. And at times, I don't have my other relatives that can join me. So I'm traveling and I don't really wear glasses, except for maybe reading a newspaper, a book. But, I mean, if you take a ride down there, I don't know how often you go up and down that street, you can't see the lines. You can't see the little humps, whatever you call those. And I respect the police department, but it makes it very easy for them to stop, because I've seen it, to stop the motorist, whether they be speeding or maybe, I've done it. I've gone over the line, and they probably think I'm drunk. I'm, had a few over there and come back over here, and I can't find my way, around El Centro. But it really makes it of a concern, a true concern. And it scares me to no end. What I do is I come off of Imperial, or I come off of 4th, and I hop the freeway. And I take as much freeway, because I'm so used to freeways anyway. I hop the freeway, and then I get off, and I make the sign of the cross, because that piece from the freeway clear over by the end of Sears there, is just really, really bad. And your lighting, I know, we've hit the economy. I know we're in deficit. I realize all of that. But for the safety of your residents, of your motorists, that danger, what do you call that? Dangerbird? Dangerbird. That's another one that scares me. It's a real nice, cut across town kind of thing. But if you're back there and you're not careful, it's very, very dark and very dangerous. I could help. If you need me to do anything, I will help in generating, passing out flyers, making phone calls, whatever it takes. But let's make El Centro. Since I've moved here, I've been here 3 years, but because of health issues that I've had, I go back and forth to Los Angeles, I go to El Paso, I go to Tucson where my daughter lives. So when it's hot here, I don't stick around too long. But when I'm here, I see all of the concerns. I see the little things that maybe you guys are so used to, looking at, driving around, not really focusing on that versus your other important issues here. But come on, let's make it a safe city, please.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Sonia Barragan, and I live at 1005 Woodward Avenue. I do understand, there's budget cuts and, a lot of things are happening with the city, and you guys are making it look really good. But I live on the north side, and all the streets were repaired, but, I don't know why Woodward wasn't repaired. And I've seen, different cars that have had flat tires, and when you're driving down that street, there's a lot of kids in that area, and when you're driving down that street, in order for your car not to go into a dip or something, you have to swerve, and there's been accidents right there. I don't know if they've been reported or not, but I go out there to assist. Do you guys need anything? You need help or anything? But I was just concerned about why did they stop and they didn't, all those streets right there were repaired, and not Woodward. And that's the worst street that I wish they would have started with Woodward and then went on to the rest of the streets. But there's dips and holes, and it's really, really bad. And I see everything there. I have a closed gate, so my kids are safe. But even I was wondering, I know it's kind of hard, like I said, the budget cut, I understand that, but a stop sign on 10th and Woodward would be really good too, because those cars just fly through. And I don't know how, how that could be done, but the cars are they just fly through, and I don't know how, but there is a bump where it should slow them down, but they don't. And there's a lot of apartments where I live, and the kids are just out, they're not closed in. So it kind of concerns me that when a kid, before a kid gets run over or anything, if the street could have maybe a stop sign there, and if they could work on our street for the holes and stuff.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Redden, did you want to say that?
Let me just make a comment, because I think we certainly understand your concern about the streets, and I appreciate the fact that you recognize how many streets have been fixed. We didn't stop because we didn't like Woodward or what. In fact, this council and this city took away the politics of street improvements a long time ago, and it's done by a pavement management system that grades all the streets, and then we look how much money we have. Thankfully, we have the money to fix all the streets, or 88% of them will be. We can't do the type of street paving that we're doing very effectively when it's hot. So I don't know, Mr. Hagan, is it going to be in October, or is it going to be after the first of the year?
That time frame around October, November, yes.
Okay. So the next section, and I think we have close to $5 million.
Yes, and also we have is that part of the Colonia, Miss? No, it's not part of the Colonia.
It's just
so
outside.
That'll be that's right, it's outside. So that'll be under the Measure D. It's over the next this next year. Pretty much we'll get to that 80 plus. We use that number because we don't want to say it's 100 because there's always costs in there, but a lot more of the streets are going to get done. We got the big streets done, which are very expensive. So
Yeah.
you're going to see a lot more of the
I
side
mean, you
streets.
guys really did a good
I
job. I mean, you know.
I think
it
it's safe
looks
to
great.
say, for your concern, that just about every street will be fixed by April of by 2012,
Oh.
maybe a little sooner.
Okay.
But we had to do it in program. We gave out, in fact, I think the contractor told us it was the largest ARAM project for a municipality that we just completed this past April in California's history. So it was a
Okay.
huge project. We had to break it into two projects because otherwise we'd have had the whole city tore up. And then became the problem with you don't want to put that surface stuff, materials down when it gets
When it's
very
hot.
hot. So as Mr. Hagan suggested, the money's already allocated. So I can't guarantee, Mr. Hagan, I'm sure you know Woodward's probably in the next batch, is it
Yeah,
not?
hopefully we're crossing our fingers. And
I hope you're
May.
not one of that 10%. but-
I think it
All
is.
right then, thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Hagan, can you communicate with Mrs. Navarro about the issue on Dogwood and see what we can do? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Navarro. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Hagan, I have a question, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Mrs. Navarro also referenced Danningberg, and if I'm not mistaken, she's talking about that strip between Dogwood and 4th Street. So that, I'm sorry? Yes, in Dogwood. So is that city or partially city-county?
South side is the county.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Well, it's a
Some-
mixed bag. There's two parts. At
yeah, that's what I
Farnsworth to
thought.
4th, it's city.
Well,
From
from
Farnsworth to Dogwood,
East
it's
is
county.
county, so therein lies the concerns, and that's the area that's the darkest. I travel that quite a bit. It's that Farnsworth east to Dogwood that's county. So I think that it would be nice to allow Mrs. Navarro to understand some of the jurisdictional issues that we face as we're trying to address the concerns
Ms.
about
Sanders,
lighting.
Don't forget that that's Caltrans right away.
That's Caltrans right away. Dogwood is Caltrans right away, but we also have a part of its county, and she was specifically referencing, as I'm not mistaken, the Danningberg piece between Dogwood and 4th. So there is a small strip there just about at the track, which is extremely dark. You're absolutely correct. So,
Right, and as projects come in and do development on that street, they're conditioned to do the
Yeah.
widening, curb gutter sidewalks, and streetlights.
but that's, but her concerns are valid and real, but she needs to know that part of it is jurisdictional, part of it is part of the county, and so we're doing the best we can.
Let's-
So
let's
be
keep in
very,
mind
very
that-
careful.
That the lights that were installed and have made an improvement, significant improvement than when there was no traffic.
Traffic lights.
Signals there.
Oh,
And then,
yes.
I believe the highest county priority project for the ICTC is the Dogwood Bridge, right?
That is
Yeah,
correct.
That is,
And that is scheduled, I think, at this point, unless the state goes bankrupt, that's probably true. Assumingly, we're on schedule for the Dogwood Bridge to be completely rebuilt in 2014 or 2015.
Construction should start in 2014. Am I correct, Terry?
It's not an immediate thing, but we do have it in the timeline. It is the highest approval county-wide priority, and funds are being allocated that, which will eventually turn that into a 4-lane bridge, which quite honestly is part of the problem. You only have a 2-lane bridge, and trying to get that to work is not an easy task. And I can't recall what the cost was. It was in excess of $30 million, I
It was
believe.
about 30.
$30 million
about
to replace that bridge, and so while it is a priority, obviously $30 million is not something we can just hand out. But your points are well taken.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the consent agenda. I'd like to pull for discussion items 14 and 16. Any other items that wish to be pulled by the council?
15.
15. So we're pulling for discussion items 14, 15, and 16. Is there a motion to approve items 2 through 13 and 17, 18, 17, and 18?
So moved.
second.
Moved by Edney, second by Walker. Please ballot.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, let's go ahead and take care of these items, with the exception of item number 16. Pastor Colas called me and asked if we could, if we were going to discuss this, to give him some time. He's in a different meeting and will be here around 6:45, I understand. So when the pastor comes, we can address this item. But for right now, let's address item 14. Chief Petrie? I don't have an issue with the shifting of the battalion chief position, but just explain to me the duties of that chief are going to be, of the battalion chief, are going to be handled by whom, or how does the transfer of responsibilities fall to be able to still get the job done?
This is kind of misleading, the cover page for you folks. We were going to lose the BC position through the budget process to the first chief officer that retired. That happened to be Steve Wilson. Mm-hmm. So in the process, because we had it was felt that organizationally we didn't need the number of chief officers we have. So instead of lose the chief officer and not getting anything for it, I requested that I get 2 firefighters for that position, which is about fiscally, it's about a push. It's about right. The same savings. But to answer your question, who's going to be doing that chief officer's work? We have put a training officer on days. Since Chief Wilson's retirement, he has taken over all of the training duties, and we have divided up Chief Wilson's responsibilities among the other chief officers.
Okay. So you don't see an impact to the operations with the elimination of this position?
It's catch-22.
Yeah, it's if we're going to lose the position, the administrative position, I might as well get a corresponding amount of firefighters for it. So I'm going to get 2, which will increase the strength of the suppression shifts and give us better coverage. The chief officers are not on shift. They're all 40-hour employees, and they cover call during the week, after hours, over the weekends. That's what's going to be the biggest impact, but we think we have solved that by moving one of our captains from suppression to days.
And on the trainee position, have you had any communication or looked at the IVC Firefighter Academy? And I know that they're working on, that's not one of mine, but so I can talk about it. They're in the process of applying for accreditation so that it becomes an accredited academy.
Right, yeah, I'm very aware of the academy out there. We have a few of our personnel that actually teach at the academy. I think they're in their 4th year, and it's a great program. It serves our community well. It provides a lot of kids with the basics that they need to go, and they can become reserves for a couple of the other departments. Unfortunately, our city doesn't have a reserve program, so it doesn't help us. Generally, those kids can test for us for our current job description for firefighter. But what we're looking at in the trainee position is we're trying to reach out to some of our local individuals that have maybe come out of the military or come out of somewhere else, that they're not aware that they have to be an EMT and have 10 units of fire science and have gone to an accredited academy. So we were looking at trying to reach out to some of our local kids that and give them an opportunity to become firemen. That's how I got in. That's how every current officer that's at our department got in. They didn't have the requirements that are currently in place. We can make an individual a firefighter, a good firefighter, if we're given the time to train them. But I think our requirements were unfair to some of our local kids because they didn't have the time to go to an academy for a year or go. Most of them are either right out of school or they've come back from Iraq or Afghanistan and they're veterans, or they're trying to support a family with a job. So, but I've had no less than 6 or 8 kids come in the last 5 years, and every one of them said the same thing. I just got out of the military, I'm looking for a job, when are you guys? And then we have to tell them, well, you have to go become an EMT, you have to go to fire academy, you have to get 10 units of fire science, and they just kind of wilt in front of you. So this is an opportunity. We're attempting to reach out to our locals, and I think it's a great program.
So as a trainee, they're temporary employees, correct?
Yes.
And so should a position open in the future, the trainees will have to apply?
No, we have several openings currently.
Right.
And these people will be hired as trainees. There's a process. They will go through a 6-month or 6-week academy. They will be then assigned to a suppression shift, and then they have certain goals they have to achieve. When they reach a certain goal, then they will be offered a permanent or a probationary position. At that time, they'll start their probation, and currently for public safety, it's 1 year.
Chief, if I may, what is the number of vacancies we have right now? We had 6?
We have 6.
So we're looking at an academy of 6.
Well, I think this is a terrific idea. How successful it'll be will remain to be seen. But, this has been an ongoing challenge for us in good economic times and in bad. And the opportunity to help local people get a job. And look, they're committed to the valley. So we know if we train them and they're successful through that training and the probation period, they're likely to stay here because they're from here.
From here. Yeah.
One of the issues we've seen, whether it's been here at the city or other locations, is when you bring somebody in, part of the problem becomes they may be using us to get the experience to go back to where they're from. Not that they may dislike it here or they hate it, but this was an opportunity to get a job, and then as soon as they get their 2 or 3 years in, then they're back to the coast or LA or wherever. I think this is a great idea, and a great program, and it hopefully encourages some of our local kids that they can get into it. Maybe it expands to other fire departments.
Yeah, we hope so.
Well, I'm still trying to get a grasp of the mechanics of this. So if the council approves this position, you're going to be advertising for firefighter trainee.
Yes, sir.
Vacancies, and it'll be a traditional recruitment process where people are going to apply, and based on the qualifications of those applicants, you will choose to interview a number of them, and so the process itself is the same?
The process is the same. It actually, they'll apply, we review the applications, they take a written test, then they do a physical abilities testing, then they'll do an oral board, and then the next step is they come in for a chief's oral, and we hire off that list. Then we create a eligibility list for hire. It's the same identical process.
And right now, how many vacancies do we have?
Approximately 6.
And we haven't been able to fill those vacancies because why?
Because they've just occurred. We lost. We had a firefighter resign about 2 weeks ago. We've had 2 firefighters retire, or 2 captain positions retired in the last 4 months, and then Chief Wilson's the battalion chief position, if it's approved for 2 firefighter positions, and then we have another firefighter that's that position will probably be available within the month.
Okay. And as it relates to liability or the well, obviously you're going to have some inexperienced people learning how to become firefighters. So what is that training phase like to ensure that their safety as well as the safety of other firefighters?
Well, when most of the kids come from an academy and we hire them, they've had the basic skills. They know how to throw ladders, they know how to pull hose, and they've gone through and learned about fire behavior and it's a curriculum that's at every academy. We will basically do the same curriculum, but we will emphasize on our operations and how we pull hose and how we our basic fireground operations. Like I said, they're going to be in the academy, which is days, for 6 weeks. They will have the basic skills necessary to go to shift and be able to support the shift. Now, they will not, when they go to shift, be the only firefighter assigned to that rig. They'll be a supplemental firefighter for a certain amount of time.
Any other questions?
It's like the old apprentice program.
It's exactly, it's an apprentice program.
We have
Exactly.
very qualified people in the fire department. I'm sure they can do an outstanding job training them. And as you said, to fight fires here.
Yes.
In the types that we fight, and the medical calls that you now have to concentrate on.
Right.
So you have,
Ms. Sanders?
Yes, thank you so much. Chief Petrie, with the elimination of this position as a BC, battalion chief, that will leave you with how many battalion chiefs?
Chief officers, there'll be a
Yes.
fire chief and then 3 chief officers.
So we had 4.
4.
And with the opening of the new fire station, do you anticipate that this program, this training program that you're proposing to implement, if approved tonight by the council, and it seems to me that we will approve it, that will then hopefully give you the opportunity to really have the resources, manpower resources, in order to staff the new station?
That's correct. Currently, our minimum staffing is 8 people. We staff 2 engines in the squad. When we open the 3rd station, our minimum staffing will be 9, 3 engine companies. And the new station will provide us with a quicker response in a geographical area. And that's the importance of it, is that we'll be closer to the residents of the northwest side of town.
But equally important, if I may, equally important based upon what you're sharing with us today, that you will have the staff resources in order to be available to really staff that, according to what you're proposing.
Right. We currently have the staffing to transition to the new station.
Now?
Currently.
Okay.
We've hired those positions over the last 5 years.
Okay.
When I
This
state
will
that we have a
just
minimum
strengthen it.
staffing, that's just a minimum. Normally, over 50% of the time, we'll probably have 1 or 2 more people than minimum staffing, because each shift will have 12 people assigned to it.
Okay.
There'll be 36 individuals in suppression.
Okay. No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief. Is there a desire from the
Second.
motion by Edney, second by Walker, please ballot?
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, let's go ahead and do item 15.
This is the option for the Buckland Park pathways, option to complete the center pathway with a change order.
That's beautiful, Mr. Megan.
Thank you. That is beautiful. It's a good job that the contractor's done so far. When we initially did this project, we bid it a couple times, and we had to remove this center portion out of the project to bring the project within the allowable funds that we had. And the contractor essentially completed the job, and they've given us an option to do this center portion. And this is shows the funding here. We had CMAQ funds, congestion management, air quality funds, $282,000. We had a local match out of the park impact funds for $40,000. The total available funds was $322,000. We actually have expended on the contract $319,000, and we have $2,500 left in contingency funds So the additional funds, if we do this change order, would come, they're identified in the general fund of $57,000, and the contract change order amount is $59,000. And you see the grand total there. The schedule, the contractor, this change order doesn't include any mobilization costs. That he's at the tail end of the project, and he's really ready to mobilize and leave, or do this change order. And the schedule would be start this month and end 10/7. The alternatives to this, staff could try to work this in over the next couple years. We could try to do this. The majority of, or a large portion of the change order is the concrete curb that they put in there. That shows up as $26,000. That's a poured curb, so we'd have to form that. And for that, if we tried to do that in-house, we'd use maybe the prison crew or in-house people, but that would be the alternatives to doing the change order. You can do the change order now, get the job done complete, or do it over the next 2 or 3 years, try to do it with available time and staff. We purchased all the pavers for this project, so we have the pavers for the center portion. So it's really your option how you want to do this.
Thank you, Terry. Comments from the council?
I have one question. We've already had one change order to the project, a little over $20,000.
Yes, that
Is
was
this-
related to the lack of base material. We thought we had more base existing out there. Turned out we didn't.
And the one thing we absolutely want to avoid, of course, Mr. Hagan, is additional change order number 3, change order number 4. What's your
Absolutely.
confidence level that that is not going to happen?
Very high. We've worked with this contractor before. They're on many jobs, emergency jobs, and they've always done a really good job for us.
Yeah, I basically had the same question as this. Can you anticipate any additional surprises here that would increase the price of this?
No, I don't.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make a couple comments. One, I'm very impressed with the quality of work over there, and I would like to see us finish it because I think it puts the whole package together. Interesting enough, as this became a little bit of a controversial issue as it came to the council. Well, and I say a little bit because it was interesting. You know, we spent 6 months, 7 months bringing this back and forth with the council, and we don't hear anything. We award the contract, and then we hear. And it goes to a point that I think it's difficult when you sit up here because you have people who come before the council who are concerned or upset. And I know I've said this on more than one occasion, but to me, I always have to look at not only the people standing here in front of me, but I have to remember that there's another 45,000 people out here that have a say in some form or manner as to what's going on. And just because there's 10 people up here in front of you saying don't do it, or 10 people up here saying do it, it doesn't mean you don't have to take in those other people's consideration. So as this project was going on, I decided, which I don't usually do, but I went out there and I took 6 or 7 trips out to the park. And parked my car out there, and I went out and I stood on the path over there off of 8th Street. And I stopped people. And I asked them what they thought about the new pathway. And I have to tell you, I must have talked to, over 6 or 7 different visits, I must have talked to 60 or 70 people. And I have to tell you, it was 20-1 in favor of the papers. So that tells me, I don't know that we made the right decision, but it seems like we made the right decision, because if 20-1 of our residents who are out there using it every day seem to like it. A couple of interesting points. I found that the children, and I'm not saying this makes everybody happy, but it certainly made a big percentage of our population happy that use that park. I heard from a lot of people who take their toddlers or babies out there in strollers who were ecstatic because it's so much easier to get around the park. I also talked to, which was very interesting, to Bob Gady. And if you recall, Bob Gady wrote in a letter to the paper, and he was kind of upset about it. Well, I talked to him about it, and he said, you know, maybe I overreacted. It's not so bad. In fact, and when we talked about it, I happened to run cross-country when I was in high school, and we talked about it. I said, we run on all kinds of different surfaces, typically when you go to a cross-country thing, you run on part asphalt, part cement, part grass, part dirt, sometimes in the lake, you know. And actually said, you know, once we figured it out, it's actually worked out pretty well. I know that I talked to a number of seniors who were out there who, many of them found, hey, you know, it's not any really different. And then some are just walking around the grass area as opposed to walking down the cement. So I just want to say, I mean, in doing a little research on that, it actually turned out pretty well. And I don't think anybody could argue that it makes the park look a lot more attractive than it was with just the dirt.
Yeah. I like to concur. I've talked to some people, and I think the general feeling is that it's definitely a positive for the city. I've heard from people that are now able to take their children and their strollers and other equipment and use it and increases the quality of life for our citizens. So and the quality of the work, I think, is just tremendous. It looks nice. It feels nice. As a matter of fact, I ran it last night. It's very well done. I won't say.
Mayor, if I can add to the report, the original funding was CMAQ money, am I correct? That's Congestion Management Air Quality, which is federal, different rules. We did look for additional grant funds, and one of them was the Imperial County Air Pollution Control Board. This project did not qualify on the last round because they have different rules for their PM10, where the federal operation through Caltrans, they utilize to encourage pedestrian travel, where pollution control is looking for PM10 count. So they're the ones who've been funding our parking lots. They participated in Debbie Pittman, so they did Sunflower, et cetera. So, and we have 2 parking lots we're putting in for, which they brought to our attention. So we're going to be putting in for more parking lot money, because they said that does qualify. So we did try to find something other than general fund dollars because, well, we're just trying to leverage up our dollars. So that's where we went down that path, trying to find alternatives.
So where did we find the $57,000 in general fund?
My finance director looked at what our levels of returns are, and Ms. Alcide, do you want to speak to that?
As you may recall, during the budget process, we made out of our reserves a designation for vehicle and major equipment replacement. We have $2 million in that category. We also have a 12% reserve that can be also used for this. It's for economic unknowns, any other uncertainty, anything that might come up during the year.
Yeah. And it's a one-time expenditure, so it's not a recurring expense.
And because this council had not considered this, even though maybe looked at a smaller amount in relevance to our $90 million budget, you needed to hear this. And this was an allocation that I needed from you.
I think if there's one lesson learned is if we don't do it now, it's not going to get done.
It's not going to get done.
So I make a motion to move forward to finish the
Second.
project.
Moved by Walker, second by, hold on a second, please, I'm sorry. There are 2 people that would like to speak to this matter. Mr. Pete Rodriguez, and following that, Mr. Gustavo Rez. Gustavo, you're near, you want to come to the, can you state your name and address for the record, Gustavo?
Good evening. My name is Gustavo Reza, 937 South 14th Street, here in the city of El Centro. First of all, thank you very much. The city of El Centro should be applauded for their efforts to secure grant funds to support city projects. Some have raised the point that perhaps other city parks were more in need of these funds. But the fact is our city as a whole benefits from the use of outside grant funds to preserve and upgrade our public facilities. That being said, there are elements of this project that I think deserve to be examined more closely, namely the issue of disclosure. What was known, when it was known, and how much was shared with the public is a major concern in your decision of today. To approve additional funds in the amount of $59,774 to complete the center section of this pathway. This project costs a total of $100,000. Basically, that's what the city has to put in. The $40,000 that was put as a matching requirement, plus the $50,000 that's being requested today. When did you know about this? Was the public informed that this was a total project of $100,000? You present this project in two separate phases. One, being funded by the grant, where there's just minor investment by the city. Now they come back and tell us, now we need additional approximately $60,000 to complete this project. You're basically holding the residents of the city hostage. It is either you give us $60,000 or we leave this project incomplete. You'll have, yes, it looks very pretty, but if you don't give us $60,000 additional dollars, we're going to leave it halfway. You'll have that center pathway a dirt road. Is that the way you want to present this to the residents of the city of El Centro? When did you know it was going to cost a total of $380,000? I believe you had the intention that this project would include both the outside phase and the inner phase. Why else would they have purchased all this, the pathway? They just stated they have already purchased, they have enough of the concrete liners to complete the project. So the question is, you already knew about this. You knew from the very beginning, from the very time you voted to approve the outside project at $280,000 and $40,000 investment, you knew where you're going to go to the second phase of the additional $60,000. Why was it presented this way? There's opposition to this project from the very beginning. I myself am not against the project. I think the investment, one, the fact that you went out and got funding, I applaud you for that. It is great. I think we should continue doing that. But you take $60,000 away from other city funds. A month ago, you guys made a decision. You as a city council decided and voted to eliminate all funding to Imperial Valley Small Business Development Center. You voted to eliminate the business facade program. You voted to dramatically reduce funding to Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation. You voted to drastically reduce funding to the Film Commission. These are projects that bring business into the community, that bring jobs, that bring funding into the community. Are you telling me, are you telling the business community that it is more important to invest $60,000 into the completion of that park and abandon the business community? Our unemployment rate in the last 4 years has gone from 14% to 28%. You're telling me it's more important to complete this project? You took funding away from the business sector. Where is your focus? Where is your commitment? Do you allow the situation to continue as it has been continuing over the last 4 years? Or do you show a sign of support? You can just travel down Main Street and see business closures up and down that street. We're seeing closures all around the city, but dramatically in the downtown area. The facade program was created for the downtown area. It's gone now. And now we're putting $60,000 into completion of the park.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reza.
Mr.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
if
Are you
I may.
done?
Well,
I would
Thank
like very much to remind the speaker of several things. One, the funding that is going to be utilized for this particular project or complete the project is general fund. The funding that you referenced regarding those particular programs was from RDA. And that's a different pool of money. And you fully understand, if you've been as astute as I know you are, that the state has taken quite a chunk of change from the RDA. And it was for that reason we had to pull back in those categories that you described. I really don't
think.
think.
Which is even more important, why we have to
Hold on, no,
prioritize.
I'm sorry.
Let the council answer
You're
the
right.
question, please.
It is why we have to prioritize. And we believe that the issue relating to the park is a quality of life issue. And those businesses that are closed downtown are usually business decisions, and the city is not in the practice of getting in the way of businesses other than to enhance an opportunity for them to flourish. The facade program was a very successful program, and many of the businesses did actually embrace it, and as a result of that, we have seen the benefits in those particular buildings that are located in the area. But this is a quality of life issue coming from a particular and different funding stream. But your points are well taken, and I don't know that at any time that this council has had anything to do with programs and projects, that we've not tried to make sure that the public is well informed. The issue about, we have a community service commission that usually looks at these projects and develop them and help flesh it out and make sure we do the outreach for the community. And then it comes to the council. This particular issue as it relates now is about a block, equivalent of a block as far as the number of feet, that needs to be complete. We think, at least as I hear my colleagues speaking, and I concur with that, we think this will be a big benefit to the overall aesthetic improvement of the Buckland Park, and also for the users of Buckland Park.
Thank you. Sanders, Mr. Reddy?
Well, I'm just going to make a comment. Mr. Reza, I know you're a candidate for this council, and you have every right to get up as a member of this community. And you can disagree with opinions, but please, unless you have facts, unless you have evidence, do not impugn the integrity of the city council. Okay? Because you said something that is incorrect, inaccurate, unethical, and inappropriate when you suggested that the 5 members of this council had a predetermined notion that they were going to come in and spend $60,000 without the public knowing. First of all, this is a public meeting. This is the first time we've heard about it. Have you, any of you heard about it before this? I hadn't. So I welcome your comments. I welcome the campaign that you will have against the incumbents running for office. That's your right, and that's the public's right to know. Don't impugn the integrity of this council unless you have facts. And if you can show me facts, you show them. Because you're on press or because there's people in the audience, show the facts. Don't come up here and talk integrity. Talk your points. You have every right. Okay? I won't tolerate it.
May I answer?
Please, sir.
Are you telling me that you as a city council members, as a group, did not know that this was going to be a total project of $380,000? I would say, if you didn't know that, this is surprising.
Okay. Mr. Reyes, I'm not going
Is
to
that
get
what
in
you're
an
telling me?
argument.
You did not know that this
you
would
what?
end up in a project of $380,000.
Yeah, I think-
Secondly, if it's a question of standard of living, we have 30% of people unemployed.
Not
What standard of living do they have?
Okay.
Not standard,
I don't wanna-
standard of living, Mr. Reyes, but
I don't want,
quality of life.
let me
Quality
get,
of living for
let me,
30% unemployed?
excuse me.
Quality of life.
Excuse me.
But I think that's what Mr. Edney alluded to. This is an ideal topic, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of time at some of the public forums for discussion this issue, and we'll be happy to have it fleshed out more thoroughly at that time.
After the money's spent, right?
I beg your pardon?
After the money is spent. You're taking the vote today.
Well, no, yeah, we're going to take the vote today,
Okay.
but
Thank
that
you,
doesn't
Mr.
mean
Ressa,
that
for your
won't-
comments.
Your
I-
voice has been heard, sir. Your voice has been heard.
I do want to concur that I think the implications that are being made by those comments are completely inaccurate. The integrity and the commitment of this council for the benefit of the entire community cannot be doubted. I hope Mr. Reza, as he attempts to progress through his political career, is able to understand a little better the mechanics of how things get done and the noticing and how information flows. I think that I'm going to vote in support of this motion because I think that even though we're going to invest $60,000 of general fund money, the return for that investment in terms of the monies that were leveraged, the quality of life for our citizens is very worthwhile item that we need to pursue. And the agencies, Mr. Reza, that you mentioned that we are taking away funding from them, and you know this very well, most of them have supplemental funding, and the percentage of funding that they receive from this council is minimal compared to their overall budget. So that it should not have a significant impact on the operations. Also, if you had heard the comments from the council as it relates to those that have a direct impact, like the facade program, the direction from the council to staff was to go out and look for alternative funding sources to be able to continue the programs that have a direct impact, and the reduction of these fundings, a direct impact on those on the quality of life of those businesses. I'm not going to allow any more comments. No, no.
Because you're making assertions that I would like to respond.
No. I'm done. We're done. Yes. Any other comments from the council? Mr. Rodriguez will.
Good evening. My name is Pete Rodriguez. I live at 2624 Thomas Drive, apartment 1101, City of El Centro. As chairman of the Community Service Commission, we had numerous meetings regarding this project. Went over and over it. Never once did one member of the public attended a meeting. When the controversy developed, I went looking for people with all the beauty that's been done. I took pride in taking those 2 laps, seeing people walk and exercise. So when people challenge the integrity of the council, I have to ask, what? We've been here. We've been in meetings. And you guys' integrity is outstanding. You guys always been honest to me and to the public, and I stand behind you, all 5 of you. And I'm not running for office. And I would just like an endorsement for this project.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Okay, any additional comments, questions from the council? Is somebody ready to make a motion?
We already did.
Oh, that's right. Motion by, call for the question, please ballot.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, is Mr. Colas here yet? Okay, thank you. Let's go on and address item number 16, resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro approving the reciprocal parking lease agreement between the City of El Centro and Christ Community Church.
Good evening.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Did
Yes,
you want me
yes,
to make
please.
a
I'm
presentation,
sorry.
or did you have a
having
question?
private- okay, I'm sorry, Norma. Yes, please.
Okay, as noted in your staff report, Christ Community Church, the sanctuary was completely, it needed to be demolished because of the earthquake last year. And part of the reconstruction efforts that Christ Community Church is moving forward to basically rebuild their sanctuary. The Christ Community Church went before the Planning Commission requesting a conditional use permit application. The CUP application was approved by the Planning Commission with certain conditions. And one of the conditions was that due to the seating capacity that the proposed sanctuary is proposing, there was a need for additional parking, off-street parking. So during the CUP process, Christ Community, Pastor Colas, and members of the church met with the city, with city staff, and we discussed several alternatives as to how to deal with the additional parking that would be required. And one of them was to have some kind of an agreement with the city to allow the church to use the parking lot located over by the old post office as part of their parking. The parking that we're talking about is right there on Olive and 5th and Olive, and basically consists of 104 off-street parking spaces. And it's located approximately 395 feet from the project site. This is the project site. This is the parking lot that we're talking about. So it's on 5th and Olive. And this is a current parking lot owned by the city, by the church, and this is a proposed parking lot that would accommodate the required parking for the site.
Again, this is the aerial of the project and the distance, 395 feet. And these are just photos of the parking lot. The issue before you is that in order to accommodate the maximum capacity, the church needs 237 off-street parking spaces. Now, during the discussion with the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission allowed for 40 on-street parking spaces for the project site. So looking at the project, if we can go back to the parking, between their parking, the on-site parking, and the future proposed parking, that would provide 136 off-street parking spaces. Now, the project needs 237 parking spaces. So the request is to allow the church to use the city parking lot, which has 104 parking spaces. And keep in mind, the services are Sunday mornings and Wednesday nights, I believe. So in considering the request, staff felt that because of the hours of operation for the church activities, it would not be a problem if the parking lot is being utilized, because Sunday mornings there's really no activities going on with the old post office. In return, the city will be able to use their parking lots for any kind of city event or activity that may come up. And that's part of the agreement that you have before on your agenda package. So in essence, that's what the Christ Community Church is requesting.
Norma, so right now they're short about 100 parking spaces, correct?
Yes. If you refer to condition number 9 on page 6 of the staff report, there's a maximum occupancy of 690 persons.
Mm-hmm.
With that occupancy, they would be required to have 136 off-street parking spaces. Now, with a capacity of 941 persons, they would be required to have 180 parking spaces. However, if the congregation wants to reach the maximum capacity of 1,189 people, then the required parking space is 237. So right now they could build, and we could condition the project to state that you cannot go beyond the maximum capacity of 941 persons, and the parking spaces provided within their parking lots and the off-street parking would be appropriate. However, Christ Community Church is requesting to go beyond that and go to the maximum capacity of 1189. Which would require...
Can she get it? Maybe she...
Chris is about ready to throw an iPad out the window.
Well, maybe we just wait for her to get that turned off. Give her a chance to get it turned off. She's becoming frustrated now, so she can't get it turned off. Okay.
Okay.
But
Norma, the deficiency that you're noting, that already includes the Planning Commission making an allowance for 40 on-street parking. That's not typical where we make allowances for conditional use permits to count for on-street parking to count toward the overall requirement. That sounds highly unusual to me.
Well, keep in mind, this project has gone through a couple of variances. back in '93, they went before the Planning Commission for a variance. If you recall, that was Christ Community Church.
No, Presbyterian.
First Presbyterian Church was there, and the membership in the congregation had been reduced. Therefore, what they did is they sold a parking lot, some property that they were using as parking for the housing authority,
Yes.
the boat ride homes.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
eliminated the parking it went down from 71, from 131 to 71.
Sixth and Holt.
And that was done through a variance with the Planning Commission.
The only concern I have, if I may, Mr. Mayor, the only concern I have, Norma, is for that Wednesday night services and utilizing the city's parking lot of, I'm going to use the term kitty catter across from the old post office. Would lighting be required? Would we put up lighting or something for them? There's no lighting in that.
It's already lit.
There's
Is there,
already light.
you're going to use the street light?
We'll get,
Okay.
we'll get to that in a minute.
Because otherwise, I don't really have a problem. I was just wondering about
I
lighting.
believe there's lighting, but I was.
And that, no, there's not.
Picture shows lights.
Yeah.
Where's the lights at?
So,
They're never on.
so there are evening services?
I'm sorry?
Wednesday, there's
Wednesday
Wednesday.
evenings.
Yeah, Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings
Okay.
are their
So,
services.
let me get back to my question. Norma. If we were to exclude on-street parking and just required off-street parking, with the maximum capacity, the project is short about 140 parking spaces.
You would
Not
still
if
be
we-
okay,
we would be
because if
okay.
you were to exclude the 44 on-street parking, basically what you would have 136 parking spots among the 3 parking spaces, and then you would have 104 right here.
What 3 parking spaces?
The orange and 6, parking within their
Oh, okay, I
side,
see.
and then the new parking lot right
So the 136 is all off-street parking, correct?
off-street, yes.
Okay. So they're short 100.
If they want to
Eh,
go
no.
the maximum seating capacity of 1189.
So the building will be the same. Tell me how you go from 900 to over 1,000. How do you reach that maximum
Well,
capacity?
The way that it was handled previously before the earthquake, the capacity was at a certain limit. However, because of the parking issues, what they did is they had several services. So they had, in order not to exceed the maximum capacity at one time. So even though they had maybe 700 church members, they had different services where only 300 or 400 would be at the same time.
Norma, plus you have the sanctuary, you counted the seating capacity there. We own both sanctuaries, and we had Spanish going on at the same time.
And that's the old St. Mary's that's being proposed to be demolished, and it would be basically a gym, I believe, or a youth. So if you count all of those together, and Pastor Coles can explain more.
Thank you. Any additional questions for Norma?
What is the current condition of our lot, the city parking lot over by the old post office pavilion? Is it in need of resurfacing? Does it need to be striped? Does it need refreshers on the lights? I mean, what kind of money are we going to have to expend to get it into a condition where we feel comfortable leasing it?
Well, obviously it needs landscaping and probably striping. That would be the main thing.
Those are the two things.
Yeah.
It could use a slurry because it's
It's not in very good shape.
No,
When
and the
I attend
landscape
events at Old Post Office, that's the lot I use. It's
And-
not in very good shape. So
Well,
that's
I've never seen a light on over there. I mean, honestly, I walk out and it's very dark.
Yeah.
So if the lights, I see them now, but apparently they may need some work so that they'll actually come on. Because I walk out into the dark.
I think I'd like to get an estimate as to what we think it will cost the city to get that lot up to a standard that we feel comfortable with a reciprocal license agreement. Obviously, we're going to be looking at liability issues to open it up for a lot of parking for the church. I'm not as concerned with the daylight parking, but certainly nighttime and uneven surfaces and things like that. I'd like an estimate on the cost. A couple of other questions. And I don't know, Ms. Villacana.
Maybe they're going to
Put
do it.
something to rest right now before you continue to talk about the evenings. We don't need it for Wednesday night.
Okay.
Our Wednesday night crowd is not a Sunday morning crowd.
Okay.
So we only need it for 2 hours on Sunday morning right now.
Oh, okay.
Then I have two additional questions for the church site. Plans for the southeast corner of 6th and Orange. That's where the Westminster Daycare Center used to be. Are there plans for that corner right now?
Well, there's children's ministry that takes place. You're talking about the old school
Okay,
building?
Mr. Carlos, can you come to the microphone, please?
Talking about the southeast corner of 6th and Orange, or, yeah,
Where's the
6th.
school site?
Used to be the daycare center.
Which was?
Right here. I like that.
Right,
Okay.
right to the right of your existing parking. Keep going.
Oh, right
There we
there.
go, right there.
Yeah, that's for children's ministries on Sunday morning. What we have basically is we've got nursery on this side. Chris, is it 2 to 5-year-olds on this side?
We will have from 2-year-olds up to second graders will be in the classrooms there. The 6.
And then 3rd grade on up would be on this side of the street. So basically, through 2nd grade is on this side. It's got the playground right there. You can see the yellow canopy there.
And Pastor Colas, the new sanctuary is to be constructed where?
Right here.
The existing footprint?
Yeah, that's the old one. So it basically comes out, I think the old one was 100 and, how wide was it, Anastasia?
I'm not sure, but it goes to the middle.
Stacy, come to the mic so that you can
Right
share
here.
that, please.
Right here.
You two can share the
So
mic
here's
so
the
we can hear you.
footprint. It goes about right here to about right here. And then this is all parking here, parking there. This is already developed into our parking lot. So those 3 locations are parking lot. That's the one we would need to fill the seating capacity.
Is there a
Let me
thought-
say also about seating capacity in that parking lot. We've done major funerals there. I think you remember when Marcus Cherry, he was a member of our congregation. He was one of the first ones killed in Iraq. And we had standing room only here. We had to run a televised live cast on this side to the old sanctuary. We've had Border Patrol, the Highway Patrol, funerals take place. So, you know, this one was even too small right here, the old one, for funerals like that.
Is there a thought to have shuttle service or something from the city parking lot to the sanctuary?
Yeah, we've been, we've got that in the works right now to shuttle them from there to there.
We have 2 buses.
Yeah, we have 5 15-passenger vans, and we have 2 buses. We have a 50-passenger bus, and what's the other one? 30? 30. So we have, yeah, plenty of.
Let me ask a related question. That was one of the questions I had. Is how would you ensure that the congregation, in fact, used the city parking lot as opposed to the convenience of parking on street closer to?
What I would do is require all my leaders to park over here. That's all worship team, elders, children's ministry workers, ushers, you name it. We've got, they would fill that up right there. The ones who are in the upper leadership of the church to about mid-leadership would be happy to park there. So we would make sure that takes place, that one's used. We used it actually when we had the old sanctuary, and
Okay.
okay. It's like her little thing back there.
Turn on the music now.
So we used to park here before we went to 3 services, 3 Sunday morning services. There were people parking there, and we were shuttling over. So, and we didn't realize that, we just thought it was public parking. So people parked there and we started shuttling. We didn't have an agreement then.
It is public.
Ms. Walker?
Well, I just have to say, I have some concerns with opening it up on a reciprocal parking license agreement. I think it was one thing for you to use it when it was just public parking and there was no agreement. We're entering into an agreement, and maybe the liability issues are the same, but it seems to me that there's going to be an upfront cost to the city to get that into a condition that we're going to feel comfortable, I think, turning it over to the church pursuant to an agreement. So I would like to know what those costs are, unless council has a different idea. I also have concerns with going with a 5-year agreement out of the gate. I think that that's too long. I'd really like to see us scale that back. Let's try it for a year. Let's try it for 18 months. See how it goes.
What are your primary concerns of parking there on a Sunday morning?
Well, I think that to go from 3 services a day to have your entire congregation meeting 1 service, phenomenal growth that you've experienced with your church. That neighborhood is going to be extremely impacted by cars.
And I agree with you on the size of the congregation impacting the community, but I think we impact it in great ways through drug and alcohol rehab. Through,
I'm not questioning that. I'm questioning the operational parking issue only. I'm not making any value judgments with regard to the good works that the church performs on an everyday basis. But now that the city is partnering with you to take, to alleviate the parking crunch and mandate, let's call it a mandate, by having the number of parking places you're going to need, I'm not comfortable to say 5 years. Unless we put in something that says upon 60 or 90 days notice, we can revisit this, pull the plug without cause. That's
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Ms.
And-
Sanders?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. In certain aspects of Mrs. Walker's comments, I concur. However, I don't necessarily agree with the 5-year. I think that's okay. I feel like that's fine for me. And we could also look at that on an annual basis. Every year look at this to see if you want to continue, which then gets to her point of saying, all right, 60, 90 days. So if we review this on an annual basis, that will certainly, Pastor Colas, give you and your parishioners some sense of continuity, and at the same time give the city the assurance it needs.
It's written as a 5-year.
I know, but we can, we can modify that with modify it to address the concerns in a much more amenable way, I believe. But I am concerned about making sure that it is upgraded to the extent that it would be something that's acceptable.
Before I get to Ms. Redney, Norma, Ms. Vigaña. Okay, so the church is going to build a new building, correct?
Yes.
And the building, based on the seating and the size of that building, is going to require a certain number of off-street parking spaces.
That's correct.
And part of the project includes using city streets, city parking lot. I'm sorry. So whether that's a year and a half or 5 years, if let's say 5 years, we felt that the conditions were not appropriate for the city, for the residents, for the neighborhood, and we terminated that agreement, then what? The building is built, the capacity is already there.
They would need to go back to multiple services. Instead of just 1, they would probably have 2 or 3.
But the building is done.
The building's done.
Go ahead. Sure.
The bottom floor seats 831. The top seats 360, the balcony. So if we had to in the future, close the balcony to go back to, you know, to meet the parking requirements without that lot, we could certainly do that if the city wasn't satisfied with what was going on. I think the residents in the community, when it went before the Planning Commission, I know notices were sent out everywhere, and there wasn't one negative comment that came up during that time.
I don't think they'll be able to.
Thank you. Yeah. Mr. Edney?
I actually applaud the city and the church for working this type of arrangement out. We have so much space that's wasted. You know, you can't keep talking about smart growth and then not living it. If you don't make these types of collateral arrangements, you have to expand out. So you have an integral part of our city that if we don't allow a church to be built there, what becomes of that area? A wasteland, right?
I agree.
We put in some more apartments or something like that. I'm not concerned by it, and it's only because, you know, I manage a lot of property throughout the valley. If your church wasn't damaged during the earthquake, you wouldn't be standing before us today. First Assembly, I think, is that the name of that one over there on 10th and Park? Jack's Church? Okay. My office is on 8th and
And they park in your lot.
Okay? If I go over there on a Sunday, which I have to do at work sometimes,
They
you know,
park in your lot.
I can't get into my parking lot.
That's right, they're parking.
Now what should we do? Close the church down? It's a Sunday morning. They're parking all up and down the street on 10th, on 12th, on Park, on Commercial, because I'm quite certain, and I'm not picking on them, I'm going to use you as an example. I'm quite certain that they don't have enough parking for how many people attend that church. I don't think it bothers anybody. I think that the point I think that's been raised is I don't think we incur any increased liability than we would if anybody was parking in that on a Saturday without permission. But we can ask the city attorney that. I guess the issue is, Mr. Collis, are you guys willing to kick into whatever required improvements are to that parking lot? I'm not saying you should have to pay the whole cost. I mean, you're only using it minimally, but at least to make sure.
Well,
the
we're
lighting
having to
and the striping
repave the
is
whole
working.
alley down there, so we may as well start over there too.
Well, my suggestion
yeah,
is.
I don't have a problem with improving that because our own congregants are going to park there. And let me just say this too. Our church is a prayerful church, and the leadership, when this happened, we had an opportunity to move. We had some property, 17 acres, we could have moved to outside of the city. And it was, from the eyes, it looked beautiful. It was like Lot looking over the land, and it was just beautiful. And the city of Imperial was even going to make a bridge across and things like that. But we prayed, and we felt that we were really called there. We saw the amount of ministry that was taking place when we recently started feeding some of those who are unemployed now. One gentleman who was up here earlier talked about the unemployment rate, and we've seen the increase in the need for food. We get food donated from India, and we bag up groceries, and every Saturday we feed in that parking lot right there. We have over 500 family names now on the list that are coming to need to be served in that area, and we just see that need growing. But we prayed because we really felt that God wanted us there. I believe that God calls His people into the inner city where the major problems are, to rebuild the inner city. And I think everybody here would agree that since we moved into this area, that building, the old St. Mary's, was totally dilapidated. It had been abandoned for 2 years, and a Christian businessman bought it, leased it to us for $1 a year, and that's when the whole ball started rolling with Christ Community Church, and all we did was improve the area, and we believe in that. We believe wherever God moves in, things happen. Lives are restored, marriages are put back together, drug addicts are set free, buildings are restored and renewed. And so we were really praying, and here's what the Lord had spoken to my heart. God said, you know what, Walter, if you leave this area, you're not relocating, you're abandoning an area.
And I shared that with our elders. I said, this is what the Lord revealed to my heart, that we're not relocating. The other place may be nicer, but we're not relocating. We would be abandoning the very area that God called us to minister into. And so it was a prayerful decision to stay here. And then when we met with Mr. Duran at the city, we felt things were falling into place by the parking coming up here to meet the requirement for the seating that we would need at the sanctuary. So we really do feel called there, and we're willing to do things. I mean, I don't know, we can slurry the parking lot.
Well, I personally, I won't speak for the rest of the council. I don't want to put a condition on what you need to do. I think you can work that out with staff. I mean, you're using that at most twice a week.
Once a week.
Well, we're not going to take off the Wednesday because I think the light does need to work, and if you do have an overflow or you have something, but you know, so it's got to be a prorated share of the cost of that. And maybe you can work something out, because I think Ms. Sanders and Ms. Walker's points are that parking lot is in a little bit bad shape. I don't care.
It is.
But lighting, striping, and maybe a slurry seal on there to just make it presentable and make sure that there's no significant hazards on it. I'm fine with it. Like I say, I applaud you for staying there, and I applaud the city for even bringing this type of a thing. It's a difficult thing. We're not used to doing something like this, but just because we haven't done it in the past significantly on these types of things doesn't mean we shouldn't consider them.
Well,
if it was a full-time use, we might be talking about a different story.
And I got to tell you,
we were looking at ways to enhance our downtown, and by extension, this, in my view, speaks to that issue, overriding. It speaks to that issue. You're a block from our main street, so if you're going, I mean, the parking lot itself.
Right.
So this will be.
And we want to do so much more in that area. I have to say, too, I felt totally welcomed by the city. I mean, even meeting with Mr. Duran and some of the staff of the city, Chris and I have often talked about it. We feel blessed. We feel blessed to have a city that would even consider working with us on some of the issues. And so I want to state that. I appreciate what the city council does. You guys are leaders in the community, and you have to make some very difficult decisions sometimes. But we have felt totally welcome there, and I hope that we're being a light to you guys, and we're being a blessing to you guys.
Michelle?
During these difficult times, as we're having right now, one of the places that I think that people find themselves going is the church. And so I definitely see that there's an increase if you look all over. And the fact that the city is being put in a position where we can help out by just offering a parking lot that we can improve and allow people to, you know, they can not only continue to hear the word, but to be in an environment where for them it is safe, instead of just parking up and down the streets. And, if it's dark, you know, one or two go into a car, whereas if it's in a parking lot and you have transportation over there, it just makes it a lot more safer for people. Yes. So I think from that point of view, and I also think that, you know, I've met some of the people from the drug program that you offer there. I've seen them around town. And I just think that you do a great job in that area also.
Thank you.
And so, you know, it's good when we have organizations like yours, the church that is willing to stay in that community. And I, like Mrs. Sanders, think that's kind of like a downtown improvement, but it most definitely is an Orange Street improvement.
Yeah.
and that also means a lot, because one of the things that I think that we need to also take a look at is improving how our streets look. Not necessarily the streets, we've done that, but the occupancy in those areas. And the church has done a great job of just cleaning up that area there and really making that one block there look extremely well. So I'm all for it.
Well, we take the Apostle Paul's words very serious when in Galatians he said, "Don't forget the poor." And our church understands that. We have many people with means in our church that don't have to be doing some of the things they do. And I applaud them for not forgetting the poor and having a heart for the down and out. And that's our job, is to keep them on track.
Thank you. Gentleman behind you wanted to say something?
Yes. Can I keep this?
My name is Chris Nunn, 1305 Highway 86 in El Centro. And just to speak to a really brief practical issue, there are quite a few people in the neighborhood who would be at our services that walk there also. And I know that our capacity, and you maybe can't figure that in because, logistical issues, but so that practically speaking, we probably have 120 adults that we feed every Friday night, between all adults and children, every Friday night at our soup kitchen. And if you go by the church, there's maybe 6 cars out. And so, I mean, they're getting there, they're walking there. And so parking, though 1189, you see the disparity between the parking and the seating, there are a lot of people in that area who maybe don't even own a car that will walk to our services. And second point is we view ourselves there as a ministry, and the word ministry means to serve. And you as public servants, you know what it means to serve. We just want to better serve the community. And that's why we want more seats in the long run, is because that's more people that we can serve. That's more people that we can reach out to. That's more people that we can, stretch our hand out and try to help up out of the pit that they might be in. And that's the bottom line. It's the only reason why the seats are there. It's not to build up the name Christ Community Church. It's because we want to serve more people. And the way that we can serve more people is have an extra seat for them. So in essence, that's all we're trying to do.
Thank you. Ms. Walker?
I can support what's in front of us based on the applicant's commitment to assist with whatever upgrades we need, including lighting for the parking lot. If we can change the term of the agreement to allow for a 180-day notice if things aren't working out. If things aren't working out on your side to use that parking lot, or if you purchase additional property in the area and no longer need it, or if things aren't working out on our side and we give you 6 months notice that, in 6 months we need to come up with a different solution. So if we can modify paragraph 4 to allow for a reciprocal termination of the agreement upon 6 months notice, I can support this.
Just don't make us upgrade it and then kick us out.
Well, 6 months notice, Ms. I have a question for Ms. Walker. 6 months notice, as long as it's the 5 years, but with a 6 months clause, out clause.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I was going to make that observation that I think this agreement, as well as any agreement, should have an ability for the city to be able to get out if things are not working out. Yes, I hate to
They may want to
get
out,
into a more a perpetual agreement.
I know. So that's why
And also the commitment from Pastor to kind of move certain people, certain of your congregation to that parking lot to make sure that it gets used by your congregation and try to minimize the impact on the surrounding neighborhood. I think it's something also. I don't know if that can be a condition, Norma. Can that somehow be put as a condition?
I'm not sure how it works.
How,
If you like, perhaps we can,
what is the condition?
at the end of the second paragraph of section 4, as was noted by Mrs. Walker, we would have two numbers in that paragraph. One would be the first one as it currently reads, and then we would just add to the end, or without cause upon 182 days written notice of termination. And I think that would be suffice it for the 6 months.
Thank you. But then Mr. Silva had an additional.
Is it appropriate to add a condition that would stipulate that efforts will be made by the church to
minimize the use of off-street parking?
Yes, have a shuttle service.
I think we have his word. I'm fine with that.
I'm not necessarily willing to put that into a condition that he have a service.
But those are certainly issues that we could bring up.
But I was going to say
prior
that
to
Mrs.
doing
Walker has
180
basically solved that
days,
issue,
right?
because if appropriate arrangements can't be made, or we're having issues, we have the ability, staff has the ability to notify, and that, hey, look, if we can't get this thing ironed out, we're going to have to pull it.
Okay, that's fine.
I second your motion.
Any additional comments? No, who made the motion?
I'm
Motion
making
by
the
Walker, second by Edney. We wait for Mr. Solomon? He stepped out?
He stepped out.
Okay, let's go ahead and ballot.
Or did Ernest?
Motion carries 4-0.
Ernest doesn't have anything to add to that. Yeah, you want to take a little break?
Okay. We're just barely getting out of the consent agenda.
What's up with that, Mr. Mayor?
All right, let's take a 5-minute break, please.
Is the consent calendar yet?
That's got to be the record for the slowest consent calendar.
Do our consent.
Well, he's about to go out, so he didn't say it no more.
All right. Let's go on to item number 19, public hearing, continued public hearing from August 2, 2011 to consider the approval of the issuance by the California Municipal Finance Authority of tax-exempt bonds in an amount not to exceed $9,600,000 for the purpose of financing of the acquisition, construction, and development of a 72-unit multifamily housing residential project to be located on the northeast corner of North 8th Street and future Bradshaw Avenue, commonly known as the El Centro Family Apartments, presentation by our Director of Economic Development.
And, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to excuse myself as my employer is a funding source for this particular project.
Thank you, Mr.
Project.
Cool.
So, I'll be outside.
Thank you.
We don't make it as long as the consent calendar.
Go get you a sandwich or something.
Ms. Guerra.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Obviously, with a project that is known to you, we've been working with this project for several years now, and we're at a point where the developer is ready to move forward with the project. However, we do need to have this public hearing and allow the public the opportunity to speak in relation to the issuance of bonds related to the project in the amount of $9.6 million. I would like to clarify that the city is not the issuer of these bonds. It is the California Municipal Finance Authority. However, we are going through a public hearing requirement in order to issue the bonds. This project consists of a new construction project, 72 affordable housing units that will be constructed, as the mayor pointed out, in the corner of North 8th Street and the future Bradshaw Avenue extension. It is known as the El Centro Family Apartments project. This project will help us in advancing our affordable housing needs. Included in your council summer report, as was pointed out, is currently the Housing Authority has a waiting list of approximately 2,000 applicants waiting for affordable rental units. But if you see at the Section 8, which is basically the subsidized rental assistance that's provided through the Housing Authority, you see that there's over 8,000 individuals that are in need of affordable housing. And in conversations with the Housing Authority, even though they say it's about 50% of those individuals are looking for housing in El Centro, they do feel that that percentage is much higher due to the services that are available within our city. The total cost project is a little over $17 million. The developer, which is Chelsea Investment Corporation, is hoping to start construction in October. Our city has other investments as far as funding being available for this project. As you may recall, we were awarded back in 2008 a home grant that was originally for $5 million, but due to several issues beyond the control of the city and the borrower, was reduced to $2.5 million, but we do have that financial commitment towards the project. And also the city, through the redevelopment agency, approved a loan in the amount of $975,000 to assist towards the payment of development impact fees towards the project. And again, the developer, which in this case is Chelsea, is ready to move forward on the construction of this project. This is the final step that we're going through to issue these tax-exempt bonds. We do have a member from the Chelsea Investment Corporation, if there's any questions related to the project. And we also have Ben Barker with the California Municipal Finance Authority available to answer any questions related to this item.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Pedro. Comments from council? Questions? It's an item that we have been discussing now for how many years?
2, 3.
Yeah. So,
sometime.
Any additional information, questions, Mr. Edney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just make my objection known. I understand the need for affordable housing. The cost of this project is excessive. I can't even get, I mean, I've said it 1,000 times how excessive this project. This is a 72-unit project for almost $18 million. That does not pencil out in Imperial County. The other note I'll make is while Ms. Piedra and the staff report shows that there's a 8,000 person waiting list for Section 8, this does not guarantee Section 8 certificates or vouchers will become available for these housing units. They will still have to qualify under the low-income guidelines, but that doesn't give them a Section 8 certificate and voucher, because that's a federal government program which has been impacted tremendously. I don't know that that solves the Housing Authority's problem or the affordable rental unit issue, and I would suggest to you that my experience says that these units are not as affordable as what existing rental units may be in this market. Thank you.
Ms. Sanders?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I thank you so much. This is a project that I have supported since its beginning, and I still will be in support of it. I think it will do more than several things. It will not only provide opportunity for housing, but it will provide the city an opportunity for improving a particular stretch of the community that would be an extension of what we've been doing in the Colonia over there, the El Dorado Colonia. We'll also extend the opportunity for the Bradshaw roadside, off-street improvements, and I think aesthetically it will improve that quadrant of our city. So I see this as more comprehensive than just apartments. But if that were the only thing, I still think it is a project worthy of support.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. Mr. Solomon, anything?
I think Ms. Sanders said it very nicely. This is a project that I supported right from the very start. I will continue to support it. I think it's something that is needed in that particular area. It just kind of fills in a space very nicely, and affordable housing is one of the things that we are lacking. There's been many reports that have said that, and this gives us an opportunity to be marching in the right direction as far as meeting the needs of low income.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon. Again, we've all have repeated our sentiments as it relates to this project. It is a lot of money. I concur with Mr. Edney. However, I think a significant portion of that money is for general infrastructure improvements around the area, 8th Street, Bradshaw, and others. I concur that on a per unit basis, it's a lot of money. I think $250,000, Mr. Edney has indicated. But I have to trust the numbers. I don't think it's in anyone's interest to inflate the numbers, so that I have to accept that these are real issues like prevailing wage and other factors come in that increase the price of the project. But without any further comments, is there a motion to approve resolution number 11?
Excuse me. You need to open.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Public hearing.
Yes. This is a public hearing. Any member of the audience that wishes to provide comments or testimony on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion from the council to approve resolution 134, resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro approving the issuance of tax-exempt obligations by the California Municipal Finance Authority and directing certain actions? Moved by Solomon.
Second.
Second by Sanders. Please ballot.
Motion carries 3 in favor with 1 no
Thank you.
And 1 abstention.
and 1 abstention. Oh, the page number?
Really?
Okay. Item number 20, public hearing to consider the vacation of a portion of Dannenberg Avenue at the entrance to Imperial Valley Commons under and pursuant to Division 8, Part 3, Chapter 3 of the Streets and Highway Code, Section 8320. Presentation by our Director of Public Works, City Engineer.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. CBL and Associates has requested the city to vacate this right-of-way along the north side of Dannenberg at the entrance of the Imperial Valley Commons, the Coles entrance. Essentially, they installed a new sign that encroached into our right-of-way, so we're requesting to relinquish that. It's a small area. I have drawings that show that. The vacation will allow keeping the commercial sign currently encroaching, and vacation of this portion of the right-of-way conforms with the city's general plan. Staff has reviewed the request and determined that the street right-of-way is excess and may be relinquished. A public utility easement for the street lights will remain in place, and this item was approved at the Planning Commission on June 14, 2011. This blue area shows the area that will be relinquished, and you can see the sign there. The Cole sign is actually existing already. And these two triangle areas show the public utility easements that we'll keep. Any questions?
Ms. Walker? Actually goes back to the first public presentation that we had. I know that we've had a great deal of activity in this whole area with regard to street improvements, signage, and whatnot. We've also had at least one claim come before the city based on an auto accident that occurred because they couldn't figure out the configuration of the turn lanes and different things like that. Do we have a problem in this area with either our street markings on the pavement or the delineation or anything like that?
We did have some changes that the city's making. I'm not sure. I haven't been out there to see if the delineators are in place, but
wasn't it kind of right in this area, Mr.
It is in that area, yes. And we are making some changes there.
Okay. Okay. That was my other question.
Ms. Reddy, anything? Mr. Solomon? Sanders?
No, nothing.
So they made a mistake, right? They built the sign where they were not supposed to.
That's right.
Well, I guess I do have a question. But I'm sorry, I find that, how did they do that? How could they have done that? How could they have put it?
It's a small area here. I would estimate this to be maybe a lane width here. Good question. I can't answer that. They probably overlooked the survey and the boundaries and just went out there and got the sign installed, thinking, well, this is set back far enough out of the street here. And they wanted as much visibility as possible.
Yes.
And correcting that error for them by vacating this right away, it's not going to have any impact at all on traffic now or in the future?
No, shouldn't.
What are we going to put up there? Cones or, no. I'm sorry, Mr. Hagan,
It doesn't impede traffic, it doesn't affect traffic in this area.
No, you've got the right turn lane here, slowing down to make a right turn in here.
I went out there. And went in.
Traffic that pulls out here can pull out to this point out here and look both ways, and it is signalized.
Okay. Is there a motion from the council to approve
Excuse me.
public hearing?
It is a public hearing.
Okay. I've been doing this for 8 months and I still don't get it. Thank you. Any member of the public that wishes to provide comments, testimony on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion from the council to approve Resolution 11-135, resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro to abandon a portion of Dannenberg Avenue at the entrance to the Imperial Valley Commons?
Second.
Moved by Walker, second by Sanders. Please ballot.
And the motion carries 5-0.
Okay, item 21, discussion and necessary action regarding change order to Davis Reed Construction as a part of Fire Station Number 3 contract for drainage improvements in the amount of $353,000, $356. Presentation by Terry Hayden.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Item 18 in the consent agenda had to do with the Waterman Avenue extension plans being approved to go out to bid. And those plans will go through the bid process, but we still haven't obtained all the right-of-way on Waterman Avenue, so that project will be delayed somewhat. Next council meeting during closed session, we'll discuss offers to be made for the right-of-way. Part of the project, the Waterman project in the design, is a 18-inch storm drain down here that goes down to the Dahlia Drain past Laboratory. And with the weather, possible rain and issues, and this is a storm drain for this area here as well as along the Waterman Avenue, and also the lots on this side here as well. So this is the issue we're dealing with. If we can install this 18-inch reinforced concrete pipe now, and the contractor doing the fire station has offered to take this as a change order. And so what we do, if you approve this tonight, we would take this portion of the work out of the agenda item 18, the plans and specs. We'd basically issue an addendum and retract that portion of the plans out for bid. The Davis Reed Construction Company, who's doing the fire station, has a cost proposal of $353,000. Staff has cross-referenced this with the engineer's cost estimate, and they're found it to be essentially equal. The cost estimate for the Waterman Avenue is $2.1 million, and removing this work, I suspect the cost will come in at $1.75, so that's a $350,000 difference. This is not additional funding. I want to emphasize this. The LTA funds are going to be used for Waterman Avenue, so this portion of the $353,000 would be LTA funds. It's not additional work or funding. It's simply an opportunity to do the work earlier and make sure that this work is done in time for the fire station and any type of rain events or issues that would come up dealing with it, the drainage of the site. Any questions?
I have a question for City Attorney. Are we able to carve out this portion of the project and award it to a contractor via change order?
You mean from the Waterman Street
Yes.
program? Well, I think you could argue that the drainage is an integral part of the fire station project. You could also say that it's also integral to the Waterman Avenue project too, which is also going to benefit the fire station. So both of these off-site improvements benefit the fire station. How you determine which part gets included in which project, I think, is a policy decision. So I think you could have included this with the fire station project if they had thought ahead of time, perhaps, and hadn't realized that there was going to be timing issues with Waterman Avenue extension. So I think you could include it rightfully in either project and still be legal.
Thank you. Comments, questions?
I have one question. Davis Reed has done this type of work before, and they have the qualifications to do what's being proposed?
Yes.
They've done other similar projects, same type of work, been successful in other locations?
Yes.
Because we find some companies that do some things really, really well, like street paving, and then when we have them do like underground work, they're a disaster, but these folks are okay.
I believe they would do the job, yes.
Okay. Make sure that's recorded in the minutes, Ms. Caldwell, in case we need to call Mr. Hagan back up here after the fact.
Ms. Edney?
I just follow along those lines. I guess I'm concerned that because they didn't bid this project out per se, and I recognize that your proposal from them as a change order is in line with your engineer's cost estimates, but you know how much I love to get a change order in 2 or 3 months saying, oh, you know, we didn't anticipate. You know, there wasn't enough base there wasn't enough this, we found a pipe that we didn't expect. So do we have the confidence that they fully reviewed the entire project and that this is going to come in at that amount?
I believe whatever may be unknown out here, either contractor would face the same issues. And if there's field conditions that we're not aware of, something there that as they, you know, go under La Bercherie and under the drain, if there's issues tying into that drain, and I think either contractor would face that. So I can't say for sure. We've got a design that's been done by a reputable engineering company, Fusco, that's done other work for us, that's done good work. So if there's something that's missing, either contractor would face that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
No comments.
Somebody ready to approve change of order to David Reconstruction as part of the fire station number 3 contract for drainage improvements in the amount of $353,356.06 payable from the LTA account.
So move.
Moved by Sanders, second by Solomon. Please ballot.
The motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Item 22, discussion and necessary action regarding the appointment of delegate and alternate for the National League of Cities annual business meeting to be held at the conclusion of the Congress of Cities and Exposition in Phoenix, Arizona, November 9 through the 12th. I'm not planning to attend that meeting. Anybody here planning to attend?
God willing, and if the creek don't rise and the election is good, then yes, I plan to attend.
Okay. So you would plan
I plan to attend.
Salma, are you planning to go?
Are you, well, okay. Well, Mr. Solomon can be the delegate and I'll be the alternate. And in the event that the sand shifts beneath my feet.
Well, when's the registration due? I mean,
The registration is due, but I did check into that, just anticipating that this question may come up. The registration is due and has been paid. In the event that it is...
And Ms. Sanders,
I'll be the alternate.
Alternate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does that require action?
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay, is there a motion to that effect?
So move.
Moved by Edney, second by Walker. Please ballot.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Any member of the public that wishes to provide comments on items that were not on the agenda? Seeing none, we've had a recess, so council member reports. Mr. Edney?
I'm sorry, I had a question on one of the informational items. Ms. Villacana, La Fonda Bar and Grill is now opened up inside Jackson Jill's. Parking was horrific at Jackson Jill's to begin with, and I'm wondering with the addition of the restaurant, does that change up things with regard to their parking requirements?
They'll park over at Social Security.
Basically, excuse me, what the La Fonda has done is basically they've taken over what was there before, which was Manila Lumpia. So they didn't go through a site plan review because there was an existing restaurant there before. If there was no restaurant there before, they would have been required to go through a site plan review, which would trigger the new requirements for parking and so forth.
But it was a restaurant, and then it became part of the gym, and now it's reverted back to a restaurant. It wasn't in continuous operation as a restaurant. They had the spinning room in there for a period of time.
When they came in, they didn't relate that information to us.
It was not in continuous operation as a restaurant.
They'll park across at Desert Trails RV Park, providing he allows it.
I would just appreciate if staff could maybe take a peek.
We'll follow up on
because
that.
parking is a problem.
Okay, we'll follow up on that.
It's a mess.
Councilor Member Mr. Edney, anything to report?
No, thank you, sir.
Ms. Walker?
Okay, I have two items. One is the League of California Cities has a number of resolutions that are going to be discussed at the annual business meeting on Friday, September 23rd. Probably in the 14 years I've been doing this, and probably much longer for Ms. Sanders, very non-controversial items by and large. Every once in a while you get a doozy that comes to everybody's attention. This year, for some reason, we've got some very interesting resolutions, and so I am requesting that this come back to council as an action item at our next meeting so that I can get the opinion of my fellow council members so that I can vote how we want our city to be represented on such things as bullying in our neighborhoods and whether or not the city should be involved in education, elimination of the death penalty within the state of California and replacing that with life imprisonment with the possibility or no possibility of parole. I believe that the packet was distributed to everyone, and if not, it is available on the website, so that could be added to the next agenda. Just talk about each resolution, and then we'll be good to go. The other, I wanted to revisit the creation of the Community Enhancement Beautification Task Force. Did we take formal action to form that task force, or we thought it was going to be a good idea and we were going to bring that back for an actual action item?
I don't remember.
Can we have that brought back
It needs
for
to-
formal action at the next meeting?
Did we discuss
I think
Yeah,
we
we
kind of
did.
talked about it, but I don't know that we took action. I don't remember it being on a council agenda.
Did we take action to actually formally disband it?
I thought so.
No. The Community Enhancement Committee was part of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm talking about one that's a city
Yes, but
sponsor.
I thought we did do that, because we thought we had addressed everything, so it went dormant and we got everything was taken care of. But to bring it back would not be a problem for us to revisit, whether we need to have it reactivated.
Yeah, the Community Enhancement Task Force.
Well, who
Okay,
was on it?
that has to
We
come
did
back.
the same
We
people.
haven't.
Let's bring it back at the next meeting.
Yeah, I think we did have some people on that. I have to go back and look at that.
Mr. Solomon? Ms. Sanders?
Mr. Mayor, I just thought that you and I would do a tag team as it relates to the meeting that we held. All right. First, I think I would like to first acknowledge the meeting prior to the joint meeting we had with the chamber members, as was alluded to by Ms. Alfred. When I went to the board meeting, one of the comments that was certainly very, very vocal about, the members of the board were vocal about, was the term indexing. Until we went around the table several times over, the word indexing was a little bit skewed for me as to what they actually meant. Later discovered, based upon comments from their board director, Mr. Gludd, that they actually wanted to see an escalator attached to the contracts that may be lent at $1 million. Talking to some staff persons, and of course Mr. Edney and I serve on that committee, that's a part of the charter, as you recall. We're looking at that, and most of the awards of contracts in that amount would undoubtedly have to have some leverage of funds from state or federal, and that would automatically trigger the prevailing wage. And that's a point that I think is very difficult for some members of the Chamber Board of Directors to understand, is what triggers their, is that, Mr. Edney's looking at me with puzzled eyes. No?
Well, I think they're concerned that it hasn't gone up. I mean, that as inflation goes up. thing. And we have said constantly, as we've reviewed it with staff, we haven't found a index directly related to Imperial County that will provide any detailed analysis of what's happening here. And you know, in years past, people have used like San Diego. Well, as we know, the economy grows far differently in San Diego, so their inflation and their cost adjustments may be far different than what happens in Imperial County. If you use a national average or a statewide average, that doesn't necessarily fit here as well. So we've continued to discuss it as they've asked us to, but have determined and brought back to this council information that said, look, we'll just leave the status quo at this point until we see it as a problem. The council does, of course, have the ability to increase that number with a vote.
But I think what they want is for it just to
They
be
want it to automatically do it, but
Yes.
no issue has, there's no presently any concern because there's been no inflation on project costs to the extent that we'd be concerned that that $1 million threshold would be jeopardized, if you will, for those who were in favor of that as a limit. And we have said as to this council, as the task force and staff, that we will continue to review that. We'll continue to look for index that might make sense. And we will continue to look at that number as it becomes a concern. And as I said, this council does have the ability to take that number and not make it $1 million. It can make it $5 million. It can make it $1.2 million. It can do whatever it wants. It does require, if I recall under the charter, a 4/5 vote. Correct? That's correct.
So that, again, is still on the tip of their tongues. They still would like to see that. I still, in talking with them further, it appeared to me that there is still a level of confusion between that particular $1 million threshold, prevailing wage, and livable wage. They see them somehow as synonymous. And when you speak with them, some of them around the table, they were saying just eliminate prevailing wage. And I thought, you know, that is not, we don't have the authority or the power to do that. So I think there is still some level of confusion. But the discussion was healthy, very spirited, and then I'll allow the mayor to go forward with the other. Okay. Well, then we met with a group of them, as was alluded to by Mrs. Alford, regarding a number of issues that were so important to them. Several of their issues seem to all stem around a planning process, or maybe not planning, but a process-oriented issues. What do you do, or how do you go about actually establishing the criteria, and how do you get into the city hall and go to the right department for building permits? Where do you go and how do you go without proper signage? Right department if you're going for business license. Where do you go and how do you deal with issues that relate to planning? And is there any way to perhaps alleviate some of the costs that may be associated with this? Some of their ideas, in my mind, had some merit. Perhaps we could do a better job of doing some signage. A couple of ideas they had come forth, and I'm not sure if this is something that we can embrace, but at least it's an idea. And that is maybe we need some kind of a kiosk. And I thought a kiosk in which shape, form, or fashion, something with a computer that would tell them exactly what they need to do. I have found in my years of experience here with the city that we haven't had that kind of a novice come into City Hall actually wanting to develop or had a project that they wanted to advance. Overall, I would say the staff did a fine job of explaining the issues to them and having them clearly understand the process and what each individual department is doing and how that department relates to the other. They were concerned as to whether or not there was any type of my term, not necessarily theirs, communication between each department as it relates. If you have a building permit come in, well, does the building department actually speak with the planning department, and does the planning department actually speak with the finance department? And so they were identified in that regard, and we said, yes, everything is being done in the true sense of the word. Then everyone is in sync, and all of the things that are handled is correlated between departments. Mr. Mayor, would you like to add?
To that point, though, do we have internal workflows that we could just simply show them, say, you walk in the door, if it's yes, you go this way, if it's no, it goes this way, hand off to departments. You've seen the workflow charts.
Mr. The building.
If I may, Ms. Viacani was, leaded that project, and Ms. Sanders, I'm sorry, you're going to have to.
That's quite all right, that's quite all right.
Well, that was exactly what was handed to him. All the work that this council did over the last 8 years of, you recall, you started off with the CEQA process. Then we added the process for the business license. And the comments I got from my staff was, oh, we were not aware of that. Well, people coming through the counter, and by the way, we cross-train our folks so that if you wind up at the wrong counter, they walk you right over to the right counter. And that's why we cross-train them. And there were some comments we're going to look at. We're going to look at some customer service work, customer service training, just because it has been a while, and like any other skill, you need to keep working at it. Otherwise, you get, like anything else, it gets dull. You get new people in. So Ms. Brownlee is working on putting together a training program, not citywide, but in key positions, that when people walk in, because training somebody for the same skills that's in the back, we need to make sure that those counter folks have specific skills and are refreshed on that. So we saw some benefits of this, and we said, you know what, let's take a look at this. But I also think that the committee got from this was, oh, all this has been written down a long time ago, and the answer, and they're in the little slots, you can pick them up, and all of our staff know about it. But I'm going to defer back to Ms. Sanders and the mayor.
The staff provided them a step-by-step process of how things were to be handled. They really wanted us to emphasize, what if a novice, and I use the term novice, not theirs, what if someone come into City Hall for the very first time and had a project? What would he or she do? Where would they go? Which counter, and how would they deal with it? And I thought the staff did a fine job of outlining that for them. In my view, the individuals from the chamber left the meeting feeling somewhat comforted and knowing that this was in place and that they can share that with their particular members.
I think they made some recommendations that Ms. Sanders has indicated. And I think that there's some things we can do to make the public understand what people do better, I think, and that may not cost a lot of money, like better signage. I don't know if a kiosk, how much that would be or how much helpful that may be, but they also said that our website is not very user-friendly, and sometimes finding departments is a bit of a, if you don't know exactly what to look for, where to look for, it may be a challenge to find certain information. So I think that's a legitimate issue that we can address. That should not be that difficult to address. So within this compilation of recommendations, if I recall correctly, Ms. Sanders, is that Cherise and Kathy will take that information back to their, is it their business committee?
Business committee.
And
Chaired by Mr. Walk.
Chaired by Harold Walk, who was there, and I have to say that Harold was very complimentary of city staff and understood the process. Sitting on the planning commission, I'm sure, has provided him some insight on that. But they were going to go back to the committee through Harold and kind of share some of the suggestions and see if the committee liked them, make further recommendations, come back to us again in the future, and then come back with the council with some better prescribed recommendations and cost estimates and those kinds of things. So.
I think in addition to the website upgrades, the phone system that we have, the voicemail, leaving messages, or being able to transfer to a different directory, or all of that, it's cumbersome, it's outdated, it's old. I think we really need to look at a new backbone phone system. Am I the only one that feels that way? No? Okay. It's a disaster.
But overall, it was a very productive meeting, I thought.
No, I think your point's well, but as we all know, it becomes a point of priorities, especially in these economic times. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but, you know, we've heard a little bit about this tonight. You know, it is a tough economy, especially here, not only in California, but not to pass the buck by any means, but, you know, we are so strangled by what we do by the state of California in regard to any types of opportunities for business improvements, for reduction in fees or offsetting of fees. I think part of that, I think part of that discussion with the chamber deals with we and they maybe need to do a better job of explaining the issues of what we control and what we can't control. And we run into this constantly where people come in and say, well, do something about this. And I know, sitting up here with you the last years and with staff, there's a lot of things we'd like to do. And there's a lot of times I take a suggestion to one of you or I take it to Ruben, he says, yeah, that's a great idea, but under this code, we can't do that. And it's not, again, it's not passing the buck, but I think information needs to get out to people that we only have so much control about creating some of the things that we'd like to be doing because, unfortunately what you just said when you were talking about the League of Cities, Sheriff, I thought, well, the first thing I want to know before on any of those items is, what is the cost? Mm-hmm. Because we never figure that, oh, let's do this, it's going to be a great thing and it's going to help people. Okay, but who's going to pay for it? And for the League of Cities to be getting into all these other kind of things like, okay, fine, great program. Who would not be against, or who would not be in favor of supporting a program that stops bullying? Okay, no doubt. You would not find anybody in this room that says that's a bad idea. Question is, who is going to pay for it? And that's the problem with what goes on in Sacramento. Nobody ever asks who's going to pay for it and where's the money going to come from. I remember very significantly the playground issue. We got to get lead out of the playgrounds, right? Was anybody against that? Where was the money to pay for it? Because some guy up in the legislature or some guy up in the legislature said, this is a great thing, I'm going to save a child. We all can support that. Mm-hmm. Who's going to pay for it? And I think, it's part of our discussion with the chamber. They come in and they say, we want you to do this, we want you to do this. How much of it can we actually do? And I think the opportunity that you, the mayor, had and explaining that we are doing certain things, and there's certain things that you would like us to do, we just can't do because we don't have the authority or there's some government regulation that requires us not to do it.
That was explained time and again at the board meeting when they have their monthly board meetings. Time and again, we've tried to illuminate those various issues, but
And that was discussed, and that's the reason why Sherry's, in her comments, talked about if the chamber can facilitate or help the city in any way deal with Caltrans. That came out of that precise conversation as to the limitations of authority that we have over projects that are on state highways. So I think that message was there.
Well, I think Mrs. Sanders' comment about the prevailing wage was right on. I mean, obviously somebody said, well, just get rid of it all. It's a very good point. We shouldn't be dealing with, now, that's a political or philosophical idea. But the reality is, whether you're for it or against it, we don't control it when it comes to state or federal monies. So it's a non-issue in that fact that we can't control that.
Okay. I also want to say that Prince Harry is coming. Mr. Duran and I had a meeting with the new commander at the Navy base, along with Marlene Best, and who was the other lady that was there? Was she the mayor of Imperial?
No, the director of the Imperial Chamber.
Okay. It was just, at first, we thought we were going to go meet Prince Harry. Come to find out he wasn't even there. He's not here, even though there's been sightings.
There was no show.
There's been sightings of him at McDonald's and at Jackson Gills.
It's
and
like they're still citing Elvis too.
I don't think he's come across the pond.
I don't think he
No,
has.
But I did know
no,
that,
because that night there was a YouTube video of him in Croatia dancing.
But I did note that the editorial of the paper was to give him a break, but they did lead off with the fact that maybe 1 in a million chance some lucky girl.
Yeah.
I did mention it to my daughter when she came over this morning that,
Yeah. But
22, good looking, single, professional, educated.
He's definitely coming, and I'll share with you some of the issues that they anticipate. I think they feel pretty secure as far as the Prince Harry or Captain Wales. Well, that's his coming down officially as Captain Wales, not Prince Harry. within the confinements of the Navy base and the security that they have, they're not concerned over issues. They are a little concerned over what's going to happen when he ventures into town, which they told us that he will.
Oh, don't let
venture into town. They've been getting calls from not just the national media, all E! Entertainment and CNN and
TMZ,
everyone that has a press pass is calling to find out when he's coming. Obviously, they're not releasing that information, but they do anticipate people perhaps camping out in front of the entrance to the Navy base, and so they are a little concerned over that. And with Twitter and Facebook, when he does get spotted in town, that information is going to spread like wildfire. And so they just cautioned the city, and I think the chamber offered to perhaps address the restaurants here in the city, and if in fact he does show up, try to give him some privacy. And there are no plans for any kind of special appearances, public events of any type. They think his schedule will be pretty tight in accomplishing the training that he's here to do. He's not spending the full 2 months in El Centro. He's also going to be doing some things in Gila Bend or somewhere in Arizona. But he will be here for 2 months, and we can anticipate national media and other people wanting to get a glimpse of him. Ruben, did you want to add anything?
It's from my operational side. The base will be working with the diplomatic protective services who are responsible for him. He is considered a head of state. Portion of the head of state because of the royal family's relationship in England. So off base, they'll be working. They're going to be in contact with the El Centro Police Department and the Imperial County Sheriff's Department to coordinate necessary security off base should that be needed. It's one of those where they want him to have the experience that the rest of his squadron is going to have, but they also recognize he's not just the head of state. He has a celebrity status that creates a situation for protective services to deal with. So they'll be out here very shortly, and they'll be in contact with our police department, the sheriff's department, for that. Other than that, they made it very clear there will be no public events. He is here as Captain Wales, and he'll be in 12-hour days. But he is also noted for liking to go out on town. So.
Okay, those are all the comments that I have. Any additional comments? We'll adjourn the council meeting.